Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today I thought I'd do something a little different. I've been upstairs in the studio and it's a little chilly, so I'm going to be working downstairs today. And I thought I'd just bring a few of my favorite picture books downstairs today and kind of flip through them and maybe get some inspiration. And I thought at the same time I could share these books with you. My Hair is a Garden, written by Cozbi Cabrera. Cozbi Cabrera has written several picture books. She's also a clothing designer and a doll maker. This story is about young Mackenzie. Mackenzie is teased about her hair, so she seeks the help of Miss Tilly. Miss Tilly shows Mackenzie how to care for her hair and how to think differently about it by showing her her backyard garden. Miss Tilly makes the beautiful comparison between the plants and the trees, telling Mackenzie that her hair is just like a garden. It is beautiful in its own way, both needing patience and love and care. This is the first picture book that I've purchased by Cozbi Cabrera, but I've seen a lot of her work online, and I just really love how lush her color palette is, and there's always lots of texture. If I'm not mistaken, I think she uses gouache or watercolor or even a combination of the two, but I just really love how the illustrations are loosely painted. The backgrounds are almost a little bit abstract, and I find that very appealing too. It's just a beautiful color palette, and I also really love how the figures are painted dark. And this reminds me of one of my favorite painters, Carrie James Marshall. And another cool thing about this book is in the very back, she has added some homemade recipes for hair care products, which I think is really, really cool. So this book is absolutely worth the read. My next book choice is by Myra Kalman, and it's called Various Illuminations of a Crazy World. So Myra Kalman is an American artist, illustrator, and writer. She has written and illustrated over 30 books for adults and for children. I actually have 3 of her books. And she also has work exhibited in museums around the world. And she is also a contributor to the New York Times. This particular book, the illustrations depict a lot of childhood memories. There are also illustrations of random strangers and objects that she encounters daily on the streets of New York where she lives. All of the illustrations are accompanied by stories And I just really love the way that she writes. Her writing is funny and it's witty, and it really is thought-provoking and interesting. I wouldn't say that this is a children's book. It really isn't something for children. But I just really think it's an interesting read. I've actually read this book, I think, a couple of times. And the other two books that I have, I've also reread them a few times as well. So I really, really, really like Myra Kalman. The illustrations in this particular book, or I actually think most of her illustrations, are done in gouache. And she really has a beautiful color palette as well. I love it's almost like a limited color palette that she has. She doesn't have a lot of color in her illustrations, but it's just beautiful, simple illustrations. So next up we have Mother Goose. Now this book just reminds me of my childhood. I loved Mother Goose when I was a kid. In kindergarten, it was Mother Goose to no end. I just loved it, and I'm still a fan actually. So this book is written, it's not written, it is illustrated by Scott Gustafson. I hope I said that right. I'm not really that familiar with the illustrator, but after seeing this particular book, I really was wowed and I really wanted to have it. So it's full of Mother Goose nursery rhymes. I think looking at the table of context there, there are quite a few. I don't think all of them are included in the book, but there are a lot of familiar ones. I'm sure you'll see a few familiar ones when I flip through the pages. So I love how the paintings in this book are detailed, they're colorful, and they're full of emotion. It's like the characters almost jump off of the page. Now, I've read a little bit about the artist, and it says that he is influenced by the work of Norman Rockwell. And you can actually see that in the work as well. And I'm actually a big fan of Norman Rockwell, too. Looking at this book, it just makes me happy. It takes me back to a time when everything was just wonderful and simple and easy. And I can just get lost in this book, get lost in my imagination when I'm looking through these pages. It's almost really like a magical experience. So my next book choice is entitled The People Could Fly. It is written by Virginia Hamilton and illustrated by the dynamic duo of illustrators in my book, Leo and Diane Dillon. They were a married couple, and they have illustrated many children's books, paperback books, and comic books as well. Some of their most popular books, one that I actually remember from my childhood is Why Do Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears? And another is The Girl Who Spun Gold. These are the two books that I'm mostly familiar with. I actually learned about this particular book through an Instagram post a couple of years ago. This book is an African tale which tells the story of the people who knew magic that enabled them to fly. But when they were brought to America as slaves, they forgot the magic. All except for one old man. He never forgot. And when he could no longer tolerate the suffering, he whispered the magic words, and just like a flock of birds, the slaves rose up and flew to freedom. And my last book choice is by Eric Carle. Now, I could say so much about Eric Carle. He's famous for his paper collage illustrations. He has written and illustrated some of the most iconic children's books of all time. He's just a master of the craft. So this book, Papa, Please Get the Moon for Me, is the story of little Monica who asks for the moon, and her papa is determined to get it for her. This book is just an absolute delight to read, even as an adult. It has pages that open and extend in all directions. It's just really, really beautiful. I love Eric Carle. I love his work. I think there's actually a YouTube video where he is working in his studio and he actually shows the process, the work process of how he creates his illustrations. It's really interesting. And there's also an Eric Carle museum for illustrators. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to put that somewhere here on the screen where that museum is actually located. I would love to visit someday. Now, this is just a set of postcards that I bought last year. There are 100 postcards from Eric Carle that feature a lot of his illustrations from many of his picture books. And there are also postcards from the covers of these books as well. Sometimes I just like to pull these out and flip through them when I'm looking for some inspiration. In the studio, they're just easily to pull out, and I can lay them on my desk and just have them off to the side whenever I'm needing a boost of creativity. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me today. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I thank you for all of your wonderful comments, all of your support, and I just want to say that I really appreciate it. And I will see you again soon.